Hi everybody, Kirsty, Goddess of Neptune here. I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. Just bringing you this astrology overview for the Venus transit into Gemini, which is taking place on the 11th of April. And for us in the UK, those of us on GMT or British Standard Time, it's happening at 5:48 a.m. on the 11th of April. Before I was doing this recording, actually, for some reason, I was thinking August in my mind. So I don't know if that's relevant to anybody out there. Take it as you will. It's just something that came up in my Piscean mind. So there we go. So yeah, hope you're doing well. This transit, of course, with Venus moving into Gemini, having been in Taurus, giving us that feminine energy, supporting us with our worth and our values, with all the other energy going on as well. Now moving into Gemini, and I view Gemini as the pillars, the balance of the masculine and feminine. And of course, with Venus energy, what we love, what brings us joy, what we can nurture ourselves with, what makes us feel good. Moving into Gemini, there's almost this sort of, are we clear on what brings us joy? Because we've got the two sides to look at. So are we clear about what brings us joy, or are we curious about something else, maybe many things? It could be calling that into question. Now, can't mention Venus without mentioning Mars. Mars, as we know, is now in Cancer as well. And there has been a kind of a little bit of, and I'm even hesitant saying it, but an ego death that's been going on amongst the collective. You may have been going through it yourself. And when I say that, I mean unhealthy ego. And recognizing that the Cancerian energy, which is feminine energy, has been softening the Mars energy to help nurture through the healing, helping the masculine be nurtured through the healing process. And let's not forget, we've all got masculine within us. We've got masculine and feminine, and the key is to get the balance. But on our healing journey, often we find that we are out of balance for whatever reason, and we need to bring it back into balance. And that requires work, that requires attention on ourselves. And the Mars energy, that masculine drive forward in terms of going after what we want, has had to take a bit of a knock in some respects because of what's come up to the surface, to be transformed, to be healed, because of all the energy we've had going on in Aries, which we know about. And you can watch much of that in previous astrology reports I've done if it resonates for you. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up the chart and we'll go into this in more detail in terms of this Venus transit. Mercury isn't quite in retrograde, but it feels like it's getting there. Of course, we're in the pre-shadow phase, but let's just bring it up here and have a look at the chart before I confuse matters anymore. Right, Venus in Gemini. Okay, so hopefully this will work if I zoom in here. So you'll be able to see, hopefully, at the bottom, just depicted as a transit chart, really. There's still a lot of energy going on in Aries. There's still a lot of energy going on in Taurus. And they are the first two houses of the zodiac. Of course, apply it to your chart, and I'll be bringing up the UK chart in a bit just to give it some context in terms of the transits. But that Aries energy is that warrior energy of going after what we want. It's having the courage to follow our warrior spirit within and really go after what we want. It's taking bold action and having the confidence and courage to do so. And we've got the sun there because we are in Aries season. So that is soul essence energy supporting that. Of course, Taurus, second house, that is all about our worth and our values. So yes, we need to be that warrior self with the Aries energy, but we also need to know our worth and value in order to take strides forward to do what we want, because, we need to know we're worthy of this greatness, and throughout this healing journey, and many of you may resonate with this, our worth might have also taken a bit of a knock, as well as the masculine within us and that ego death that I was mentioning. There's also that essence of our worth and values really needing to be brought into check. And people we meet on our journeys, experiences we have on our journeys, teach us certain things. So we go through experiences that teach us what we are worthy of in terms of how it sits with us, how we feel, and what we value. And as we evolve, our values might change, or our values might become stronger because there's more of a realization of that discovery of them. and those around us may no longer resonate with our values. So we're always trying to find what and who we're in alignment with. And that's why change is the name of the game at the moment, as I've covered in other reports. But that was just to mention that we've still got a lot of energy in Aries and Taurus. And with Venus there at the bottom, I've just highlighted there, you can see 0 degrees, 0 minutes. So 5:48 a.m., 11th of April for us here in the UK. Apply it to your own time zones as appropriate. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing that, and I am going to pull up the UK chart. So this is, again, to give some context. You'll see lots of yellow lines here, and that's just to remind myself of what I noticed, because of course I look at these charts, I'm drawn to certain things, I'm guided to look at certain things to then be able to interpret them via my intuition and via channeled guidance to you in the collective as it may be helpful. Okay, but take what resonates, of course, because this is based on the UK's chart and your chart is going to be unique to you. So what you'll see on this chart, if you've not seen any reports I've done before, is the inner wheel represents the UK's natal chart. And there's a reason why the date is the date. I've covered that in an earlier reading also. And the outer wheel is the transits at the time of Venus moving into Gemini. Again, 5:48, 11th of April. So this is like that snapshot of the sky, of the cosmos, at that moment that Venus moves into Gemini. It's like a freeze frame of it. And you will see the other planets and asteroids, their degrees and their minutes. So that's really what I'm trying to show here. And of course, it is for the collective of the UK. There's a lot of people within the collective. It's not going to resonate for every single person potentially. And it's just really to give some context in terms of the transits because of the houses. Based on this chart, I will remind you once again, based on this chart, it's going to be different for your specific chart. All right. So what we've got here, as I was mentioning, the Aries and Taurus energy at the top. This energy falls into the 10th house and 11th house for the UK. So the 10th house is about social status and work and can also represent that inner authority. So there is that Aries energy within the house of inner authority and work, and it could relate to your work situations, but certainly being empowered within our inner authority to take those strides forward that we need to take. And there is some Taurus energy in there as well, with Mercury and the North Node transiting through, but also we've got some Taurus energy in the 11th house, and that is the house of connections because it's Aquarius's house. That's where Venus has also moved into Gemini. So Venus hasn't moved into a different house. And this is why astrology is fascinating to me, because charts are unique and it's very rare that you see a chart that has one house, one sign. It's very unique to us, you know. So this is showing that the Venus energy is still, for the UK, certainly for this chart, is still in the 11th house. So it's still in the house of connections. So in terms of what makes us feel good, what brings us joy within our connections with other people, do we know what that is? Do we know what brings us joy within our connections with other people? Or are we curious to find out a bit more? Are we curious to look over there? Are we curious to look over here? That Gemini energy, you know, there is curiosity within that. Do we need to explore anything relating to our expression? Because it's Gemini energy. Or do we know inherently within what it is that brings us joy, what it is that makes us feel good, that Venus energy? So ask yourself that. And of course, in this chart, the natal chart of the UK, Venus is also there in the 11th house, but in the sign of Taurus, which is where Venus was. So there's still that heavy divine feminine energy when it comes to connections. And we can certainly nurture ourselves through the change because we've got Uranus there, we've got Juno. Now, I will point out, because I was drawn to a couple of exact conjunctions going on. So you'll see in the 11th house, we've got, as well as Venus being there, At the moment that Venus transits in this freeze frame, as I was saying, we've got Juno and Uranus both at 17 degrees of Taurus in the 11th house. So yes, the minutes are different, but the degrees are the same. So Uranus is all about change. And Juno is the asteroid that represents love and also marriage. It's divine feminine energy as well. So there's Venus, divine feminine energy, Juno, divine feminine energy. And then we've got the planet of change sitting in the 11th house of connections with other people. So do we know what brings us joy in loving relationships with other people, or do they need to change? That would be my interpretation of that. So are you aware of any changes that are needed within your connections with other people? Is there love within those connections? And it doesn't have to be romantic love. Because, you know, coming from a place of unconditional love, that could be with anybody. But it's certainly relating to people because it's the 11th house. Do we know what brings us joy? What makes us feel good, Venus energy? Or are we curious with that Gemini energy going on? Of course, Uranus and Juno are still in Taurus. So when it comes to our worth and values, do we value ourselves enough to know where change is needed in connections with other people? Ask yourself that question. So those are just questions to pose at this time. And Mercury is still in the 10th house on this particular chart, in Taurus. And, you know, again, with that sort of expression of our worth and values, when we know what we're worthy of, when we know what our values are we then feeling strong enough within our inner authority, 10th house here, to express that? Maybe that's where things need to change. So we need to find that courage with the Aries energy that's there within our inner authority, within our soul, to express Mercury energy, what we're worthy of, because maybe things need to change when it comes to our connections with other people. The other exact conjunction I was drawn to is the Sun and Jupiter, both at 21 degrees of Aries at this particular moment. So the Sun is that soul essence, powerful energy, supporting us with this Aries warrior spirit, sovereignty, that essence of knowing what we want and going after it, having that confidence. And Jupiter is expansive energy. There is hope with Jupiter as well, but there is great expansive potential. So this is heightening the energy between the Sun and Jupiter, truly expanding our soul's essence when it comes to our inner authority and our sovereignty, Aries energy. The other fascinating thing is that the natal chart Sun for the UK is also 21 degrees. Again, different minutes, but we've got the UK's Sun, and then we've got the Sun transiting through. At this moment, this freeze frame of when Venus moves into Gemini, at that moment, Sun on Jupiter. So this is like expansion of the soul's essence when it comes to who we are at the core, and our expansion of self when it comes to our inner authority. Let's own our inner authority and then express what we need to express, Mercury, regarding our worth and values, Taurus, because of things that may need to change within connections. But we need to understand, with Venus moving into Gemini, we need to understand, based on the healing journey and everything we've been through thus far, what lights us up. Because when we know what lights us up, when we know what makes us feel good with that Venus energy, only then we can assess our values and our worth, because we know what feels good to us and where change is needed. So we have to understand, first of all, what brings us joy. So I'll leave that one there with you for a moment. And I will just bring your attention down to where we've got the second house and the third house All right, so we've got, with the second house, we've got Lilith, good old Lilith, transiting through the second house. And Lilith is in Leo. Leo is all about being seen. And again, that inner lion, the confidence, the courage, fire energy, just like we've got all that Aries energy. But Leo is that true expression of the soul. So there is that need to be seen. Lilith wants to be seen here. And she is 1 degree off an exact conjunction with the natal chart Neptune in the house of worth and values. So the shadow side, because Lilith can bring that shadow energy, the shadow side of Neptune is, of course, illusion and deception and confusion. It is mystical, dreamy, and magical, but the shadow side is illusion, deception, and confusion in the second house of worth and values. So Lilith is just there reminding us to really focus on our worth and values by causing potential confusion and maybe disruption in our energy when it comes to all of this inner authority that we want to express. So look at all that energy going on in Aries and Taurus. And now Venus is asking us to really understand what it is that makes us feel good. And then we've got Lilith saying, yeah, I'm just going to throw something in here to confuse you. Don't be under any illusions here, people. Do you really want to be seen as your true self? And this has come up before in other readings, because my answer to Lilith is yes, we do want to show ourselves in terms of who we are and what we are worthy of. So Lilith is a great teacher in that way, because without those little kind of, tests being thrown in, if you like, when it comes to our worth and values, we wouldn't truly understand what we feel worthy of. And it could highlight where there's areas where we need to do a little bit more healing, a little bit more inner work, if we are struggling with our worth. Maybe not so much with our values, but then when we've got the change aspects going on in the 11th house, it could be that it's bringing up the shadow side of, where we've fallen out of alignment with others relating to our values. But for me, intuitively, it feels more like it's worth, because we're being empowered greatly by this Aries energy, and also Taurus, but Aries, we're being empowered here to actually embody our true inner authority, our authentic self, our sovereign self. But we might be feeling a little bit tested when it comes to our worth. Are we confident enough to be our true self? So that's another question to ask. And if we're not feeling confident to be our true self, why? Does it relate to Venus being in Gemini now? Is Venus actually showing you where you might not be feeling worthy because something doesn't make you feel good, but something else does? This is a time to assess that. Okay. And also, with those exact conjunctions going on, as I was saying, it's heightening that need for change, certainly within loving connections of any kind, not specifically romantic, but certainly with other people. And also, that expansion of the soul's essence, the soul's power. We also have, what I noticed before when I looked at this, is there is an opposition between Neptune and Ceres. So I'm just, scanning out there. Hopefully you can see that. So within the 9th house, which is about our beliefs, can relate to religion, can identify where we need to learn certain things as well. We've got Neptune transiting through at 26 degrees Pisces. So Neptune is at home in Pisces, of course. And in the opposite house, which is the 3rd house of communication, we've got Ceres, the asteroid, transiting through at 26 degrees of Virgo. So exact opposition there, because Pisces and Virgo are opposite signs. They're both 26 degrees. So Ceres also brings expansive energy. I refer to Ceres as being a mini Jupiter. It's probably more minis in that, but you know, it's small, but brings expansive power as well. So with that opposition, that can create challenge. It can create a bit of a push-pull energy, but we can work with the energy to our advantage if we're aware of this. So that Ceres energy could be expanding deceptive energy around our beliefs. Certainly with what we've got going on, as I was mentioning, with Lilith on the UK's Neptune with worth and value. So deception coming up of, you know, are we deceiving ourselves in terms of what we believe we're worthy of or no? So it's being aware of this energy. And because Ceres could be expanding that, there could just be that cloudiness around it or confusion. There could be confusion around, well, okay, Venus has moved into Gemini now. Am I actually enjoying this? Is this making me feel good? Is that divine feminine within me truly kind of embracing this? It could be a project, it could be a job, it could be a relationship, it could be, you know, whatever it is. Does that light me up? Let me think about it. It's confusing, you know. Ceres is heightening this deception. Oh, there's a bit of a fog around me. Is it that? But then remember the Aries energy, Jupiter and the Sun, exact conjunction on the natal chart Sun here for the UK. Expand, because Jupiter is bigger than Ceres, expand the soul's essence when it comes to inner authority and know who you are. And that will eradicate that deception and that cloudiness of confusion, because when we know who we are at the core, we know what makes us feel good, then we can just say, okay, no, that's just a bit of confusion. That's what the energy is like at the moment, but I know who I am. I'm confident. We can get sucked into confusion when we don't quite know who we are, or we don't quite know what makes us feel good, because we can get distracted by other things or other people, and we can get sort of swayed by certain things. And it's like, no, when we know ourselves, Aries energy with all this going on, we can truly then embody that sovereignty. That's very important. Very important. Okay, so I wanted to mention that as well. What I will say with Lilith, though, because she gets a bit of a bad rep, but she is a teacher in that way. It is the shadow side, so can bring, you know, shadow aspects up. And we've also got, with the Ceres and Neptune direct opposition, I was saying, Ceres is also 1 degree just past the natal chart Lilith. So again, that's why there's that shadow side of the confusion and deception that could be brought up in terms of expression. We want to express our beliefs. We want to express, you know, aspects where we may need to learn who we are. We need to be confident to do that. And it's all part of the journey at the end of the day. But what I was going to say was, there is a nice aspect between Lilith and the Sun. So that, I feel, because Lilith is in Leo and the Sun is in Aries, that is very much that fire energy. So that's where, you know, trying being a positive aspect, that is where that fire energy within, regardless of the shadow aspects, we know this is life. There's light and shadow to everything, and we need to just accept that. So when we can embrace that and we can acknowledge where these shadow aspects are coming up, and they come up to be accepted, acknowledged, processed, transmuted, whatever, you know, we carry the wisdom from that through on our journey. We take the good out of the challenge and carry it forward, and we become stronger as a result. But there is that sort of nice aspect with that trine going on between Lilith and the Sun. So it's not bringing any deception there. The deception and confusion comes from the aspects with Neptune, but the aspects with the Sun is heightening that fire energy of embodiment of the sovereign soul and the sacred flame within our soul, in terms of what does give us that drive to do what we want to do, to go after what we want. So there is that essence as well. Now, we have got a square between Pluto and the South Node. So Pluto of course, on this chart, is transiting through the 7th house of relationships. So that's why it's quite key with any connections that need to change. There is also supporting energy from Pluto regarding transformation, but this is deep transformation within relationships. And we can have relationships with people, places, and things, even our own thought processes. So if things have been coming up regarding worth and values that need to be released, Pluto's helping us transform that energy, but it can be deep, it can be, I say, painful, it can be a big, intense, energetic process, because sometimes we've been holding on to certain beliefs about what we're worthy of and feeling unworthy of certain things. And then we realize that that was all self-deception, or perhaps from previous situations in the past or connections in the past where we felt less than worthy of greatness. And that can be intense when we have to unpick all of that to heal through it. But as a result, we become stronger. And that's what the Aries energy is helping us with. So there is deep transformation going on at the soul level, purging going on. There is energy of change that's been around for a long time. And this is all going on, and we've got, you know, many things to deal with on this journey. But with the square between Pluto and the South Node, and the South Node is transiting through the 4th house of foundations, we could be having to face elements where perhaps our foundations, or the foundations that we thought were strong, are actually just illusory, and they need to be transformed. But that can also be hard to face, which could be why there is that sort of, you know, challenging energy there with the square. So again, take that as you will, take that as you will. I'll also just point out as well that the moon at this point will be in Sagittarius. That's also fire energy. So we've got Lilith there in Leo, we've got the sun in Aries, and we've got the moon, our emotions and feelings, in Sagittarius. So there is fire energy helping to support our emotions. Now, Sagittarius is also ruled by Jupiter. So expansion of these emotions. So we could be feeling heightened emotions around all this change, and we may have been feeling it for some time, but it could be particularly heightened around this moment. It's also in the 5th house of love. So as I was mentioning about loving relationships, we've got in the opposite house the moon. So again, that opposition could be saying, right, okay, I know what's going to change in this loving connection with this other person or with these other people, because now with this Venus energy, I recognize that it's not making me feel good. And that could be playing on the emotions, which is also being expanded within this chart because it's 2 degrees away from the natal chart Ceres, which is that expansive energy. So it could be providing a bit of a push-pull energy of, right, okay, I know I've got to face this. This has got to change in this connection. And it's not to say that a connection with someone or other people, like a group of people, has to completely go. It might do, depending on if that resonates, because lots of connections have been changing. But this is change. So change could just be bringing more balance into the connection. But either way, if something needs to change, because we've got Uranus and Juno, exact conjunction there, and then we have in the opposite house of love, we've got the moon on top of Ceres, expanding our emotions. It could be, you know, something that is quite emotional to deal with this change. I will bring you back to the Aries energy of empowerment, of self, of inner authority, because that's key. That's definitely key, okay, to try and remember with that. Now, I'm just going to, bear with me, I'm just going to grab my Astro Codes deck, because I feel like there could be some messages within this deck to support this reading. But, you know, essentially, this Venus energy is definitely to help us recognize what makes us feel good, what makes us feel good, what do we love doing, and where is that feminine energy truly at home in that way? Or are we still discovering what it is that we want Do we know what we want? Do we know what makes us feel good? And remember, with Mars as well, the counterpart to Venus, Mars is now in Cancer. So that is a masculine planet, masculine energy within a feminine sign. And Cancer rules the moon, which is also to do with our emotions. But this is very much big energy, big feminine energy, nurturing the masculine. And the masculine side of all of us may have had a difficult time with that, because when we're independent and we like to do things by ourselves, for ourselves, there's nothing wrong with that, because that's being empowered. But there could be a bit of a, overuse of the masculine energy, and the feminine energy is trying to say, look, you need to be open to receive, because there's all these beautiful blessings ahead of you. But we need to understand firstly what it is you really want, what it is you love, what it is you want to do. And you need to get empowered, and you need to know your worth and values. And that masculine energy, yeah, okay, think of that Cancerian motherly energy, putting her arms around Mars, and Mars feeling a bit uncomfortable initially to sort of accept the hug from Cancer, and then to sort of try and really be able to balance out with the feminine energy. And that can be painful for the masculine energy because of the will to do what we want to do, the drive to do that. So that's where, also being in the 12th house, there could have been hidden aspects, wounded masculine aspects coming up that have needed healing, that have needed attention. And this is where the feminine energy has been helping that. But I will, stop sharing now, but I will maintain that message of needing to have that balance between the feminine and masculine energy. But we're certainly being called to embody our sovereignty regarding worth and values. But when you think of the Emperor and the Empress in tarot, they are both, key, pivotal figureheads of the major arcana, and they know what they want. They know what they want to strive towards, and they know what they're worthy of in order to strive towards that. So there needs to be that balance between the two. And they embody, the kings and queens that sit sort of underneath. They embody all of that energy and all of the elements that go with it. So it's very powerful energy to have. And there's just this need to balance out. But Venus is certainly asking us, what do we love? What makes us feel good? So let's have a look at the Astro Codes deck to round off the reading. Okay. We have. I will be doing a separate tarot reading. I know not everybody follows the astrology, and that's okay. But it's just important to get these messages out, because it might help you on your journey. And that's the intention, to help uplift, inspire, and empower you on your journeys. If there's a message in here for somebody, I've done my job as a light worker. So that one was poking up. That one wanted to be seen. Isn't that interesting? Yes. Conjunction. Thank you, Spirit. So there we go. So that is a confirmation of what I was just saying regarding the conjunction between Uranus and Juno, and the Sun and Jupiter. So powerful message there, a powerful message of the change that's needed within loving connections, not solely romantic, I'll point that out again. And also, when it comes to that expansion of who we are at the core, who we are at soul level. So there's also freedom comes to mind with this, and I'm getting a mix of solar plexus and sacral vibes because of the yellowy orange colors. So in terms of chakras, solar plexus is all about our personal power, again ties back to the inner authority I was mentioning of the 10th house, and sacral, what lights us up within. So it all ties in with the messages for today. That one poked out, so it wanted to be seen. Okay, so let's have a look. What else do we have, please, for the collective? With Venus moving into Gemini. Oh, that one was a bit of a jumper. 8th house mystery. So this is about, to me anyway, not being afraid of where things may be hidden at the moment. So everything that we're going through, everything that we're working towards, we may be fearful of the outcome, but that's putting too much energetic pressure on ourselves. We need to surrender to the outcome. If we're doing all of this work, if we're going within, we're discovering who we truly are and accepting ourselves for who we are and having the power to move forward with that and express ourselves in terms of our worth and values, then we need to be comfortable with that in the present moment and not focus on, oh, well, if I do this, if I say this, if I actually admit who I am, if I say I'm worthy of this, that person might not like me. Well, if that person reacts in that way, then they're not for you, are they? But that will happen, that will fall away naturally. And that's just one example. So it's just to say, and I have to take this message on board as well. I'm part of the collective, you know, I'm not immune to this. This is about surrendering to the divine and being comfortable in the mystery of things unfolding. Because when we're coming from a place of true authenticity within our divine self, within our sovereignty, within our inner authority, then we're coming from a place of realness, authentic nature, but also alignment, because we're aligned with the divine in that way. If we're doing things because other people tell us we should be doing it, but we don't feel like we want to do it, we haven't got that Venus energy for it, what are we doing? We're just going along with it to please other people. How's that going to turn out? Well, we're going to feel less than worthy of things, aren't we? Because we're doing things that are not fulfilling us. And then we wonder why. And this is why all this energy is coming forth now to say we need change, we need transformation. We've got to embody our true divine spirit, our true soul within. Felt quite passionate about that, I should tell. So let's have a look. What else do we have, please, for the collective? That's that one there. Oh, yeah, so Scorpio in reverse. So this is Pluto energy because Pluto rules Scorpio. And this is very much that deep transformative energy, but it goes to the depths. Now, Scorpio is a water sign. So, and I often would consider Scorpio to be a fire sign because it is that real sort of deep transformative power. But Scorpio, being a water sign, can allow us to flow with this transformation. And it says on here, investigate. There may be fears around learning what we need to transform because it's in reverse. Take that if it resonates. Okay. What do we have? Final advice. Let's see if we've got some final advice. Well, I just felt like I needed to clear my throat. So maybe communication or expression is something. Oh, we have 4th house. So 4th house home. So this is foundations. So as I was mentioning, we've got the South Node in the 4th house at the moment for the UK's chart. Okay, this is for the UK's chart. In reverse. So again, almost detaching from foundations that are illusionary. And on the bottom, Libra, balance. So in order to restore balance and fairness and reciprocity, can't make this up, Venus in reverse is underneath that. Yes. So in order to bring balance, we need to embody the Venus energy of what makes us feel good. There we go. I think those messages are clear. I hope they're clear because I do my interpretations and I get a lot of intuitive insights that come through in the moment and I will just express it. So hopefully, if it resonates for you, that you can take some guidance from it. And of course, it's worth mentioning that we're all, captains of our own ships, if you like. We are all, sounds corny, masters of our own destiny, but we are, because we've got the free will. We've got the gift of free will to make choices. This is all about illustrating what the energy is doing from an astrological point of view based on my interpretations of it. And if it resonates in any way, I'm hoping that it helps uplift, inspire, empower you to be your authentic self. Because when you can do that, then you light the way for other people. So the impact that you could have by just embracing who you are and expressing it without fear, it's a beacon of light for other people, and it will have so much more of a profound effect on the collective than you could ever realize. So I'll leave it there. I will be doing a tarot reading, so check that out also on my channel if it resonates for you. But until the next time, I'm sending you love and blessings and happy Venus transit into Gemini, everybody. Do what you love, follow what you love, but first of all, know what it is that you love, okay? Take care, everybody. See you soon.